What's going on, everyone? It's Corey here from the Breakevens, giving you another podcast today. Round 10, done and dusted. And it looks like we're getting into the tough part of Supercoach. I put a tweet out earlier today saying I feel like this week is the week that will determine how our season goes. If we make the right moves this week, I think it will set us up for the rest of the season. And if we make the wrong moves this week, I think it'll be pretty hard to claw back from. So we will see how we go this week. Tough week last week if you're a midfielder. But looks like the forwards and defenders held up for us. So without further ado, let's get into the podcast. First, I'm going to start with the social. So don't forget, you can hit us up on Twitter/X at Breakevens Pod. Give us a follow there. I post everything. I'm interacting with the community a lot there. So make sure you give us a follow. Over on YouTube here at the Breakevens, it's where all the content is, all the video format stuff once a week. It's all there. We're on Facebook, the Breakevens Facebook page. Give us a like over there. We're almost at 100 likes and follows over there. And I post everything from these podcasts in written form over there. So make sure you do that. And we're on Instagram as well at the Breakevens. So all right, let's get into this. So I will start with my team review. I'll get that up and we will go through it. It might look a little bit different. So let's see how we go. All right. So as you can see, if you follow any of the other Supercoach creators, they did this a while ago, but I decided to do it now because the old one looked too bright. So I've gone with the dark extension from Footy Scores. So that's why it looks a bit different. I actually like this layout, the darker layout. I like that a lot. So as you can see last week, 2,349, which I'm happy with the score. What I'm not happy with is I went down 571 ranks and I've jumped back over the 3,000 marks at 3,285. A few things went wrong for me. Last week, I didn't take the Luke Ryan VC, and I risked it for the biscuit with Maxi Gorn, which didn't quite work out. And obviously, I said before the midfield didn't do great, but we'll get into that in a second. So let me flick over and we can get that sorted. All right, so this is how the team lined up. The names aren't working at the moment, but you got the player pictures there. So Luke Ryan was the VC 122. In hindsight, should have picked him up, but it is what it is. Nicky Dacos 105, Nick Martin 100, Harry Sheasel back to a ton of 117. Sam Closey was a little bit of a disappointment with 49. And Alex Sexton 118 was a massive one. Really like that. And I kept McKercher, but I'll get into him a bit later. Zach Butters 127 was very happy. Bont 93 was not. Same with Merritt on a 94. Dawson 100. Took 97. Walsh 85. Tom Green 95. And Darcy Wilson 75. So as you can see, lackluster in the midfield this week. And the rucks weren't much better, to be honest. I had Max Gawn 109 as captain and Timmy English 91. And the forward line was actually decent for me this week. So Isaac Heaney 121, Dane Zorko 161, which was huge. Flanders 127, Tom Powell 90, Sam Darcy 84, and Bruce Revel, the Breville 73. I was able to loophole him with Darcy Jones, who got injured on 8. So I was going to use the loop there, and Jones played first and got injured. So I took Revel there. So that's how the team went. Obviously, not great, but this is something to work with. So I'll get these trades up and we can get going again. All right. So this is what I'm going to do trades wise. This is what I'm thinking. There's a few things I could do. So Will Graham and Darcy Jones are probably the ones that are looking to go out. And what I've already done is I've put Bruce Revel onto the mid bench. Um, Reason I've done that is I think he could be the sub this week. So it's been said that Zach Bailey is ready for selection. And that means I think he could be the sub. So we will see what happens there. But what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'm going to do something, I guess, very popular. So I'm going to go around 10 points. Already got Zorko. Could go Jackson, Waterman. Not going to bring Reed back in. None of these are really speaking to me until we get to the fish, Zach Fisher. He's going to come in to that forward line. And obviously that leaves me with 161K to get a rookie. The reason I've gotten Fisher in is Colby McKercher is TBC, so not sure when he's going to get back. North Melbourne didn't give us any indication, which is annoying. So he's basically that guy in defense for him. So I'm going to bring him in, and no surprise, I'm going to bring in Joey Richards as well. Now looking at this, I can loophole Richards with I can loophole Darcy with Richards because Darcy has the Swan, so it's a bit of a tough matchup. So he might not score as well. So that's what I'm looking to do there. So I I think Fisher's definitely going to come in. Um, and I think Richards is definitely going to come in. Those are my plans of attack. Um, Now, what else could I do here? What else could I do? I could always hold on to Graham. And I could trade Kircher. Now, my only problem with that is Fisher would be right here. So maybe if I cancel all this and I just go Kircher out, is it going to let me sub? It's not going to let me sub. Hang on. We'll start again. We'll cancel and we'll start again. All right. So what I could do instead, sorry about that. There was a bit of technical difficulties. What I could do is McKercher and Jones out, which means I could put Will Graham into defense there and then Revel back into the midfield. So nothing else really changes there apart from who I'm bringing in. And I think I'll still be going the fish and Richards. I think that's going to work for my side a little bit better than going a primo. So if I get Fisher in there, and then I go over here, if it loads, there we go. And then in here, Joey Richards. Sorry about this. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but Joey Richards in there. There we go. So that's going to leave me with 139,400 left, which isn't bad. And this probably sets me up better to do trades going forward. So we'll see how this team looks, and then we'll talk about my thoughts with that. But I think that's how my team is going to go. And this is how I'm going to line up. So going McCurchy out, which that means I'm forced to play Closey. Um, which is okay. I can live with that this week. Who they play Carlton. Could be played on the wings. Um, could be handy there. And it means I can loophole Richards and Darcy, um, which I don't mind. So that's how it's gonna look. Leaves me 140k basically in the bank, which means next week I can go Will Graham down. And if I'm looking, probably closely up to a defender, which I'm excited about. So I think that's the best trades for my team if I want to make sure this team's ready for the buys and going forward. So um, that's how the team's going to line up at this stage. Definitely could change depending on selection, but for now, that is it. So that's how it's going to go. I'm pretty sure it was pretty laggy towards then. I won't be able to fix that, so I apologize if it was. But I think you got the audio was okay then. So I apologize for the visual side there. But let's crack on with our plays who I think should be a trade out option. Now, we're getting closer to the buys. Our teams are getting a bit more full and close to full primo. So it's going to be less and less content here over the next couple of weeks, and after the buys, everyone should be full primo by then, so it'll be a little bit different. So let's start off with the first one, Isaac Rankin, 552k, averaging 101. So unfortunately for those who traded in Rankin last week, you got the score of 125, which is great, but he did his hammy in the final seconds of the game after clearly running too far. It's been reported that he's out for 3 weeks, and usually 3+ weeks means it's a trade out. Obviously, you don't want to waste a trade, but if you look at my team just then, 2 weeks ago, I got him a coach, and I just have to trade him out for a second time. So sometimes it's unlucky, and there's not much you can do. But 3 weeks, can you hold a primo that long? Probably not. Next up is Caleb Windsor, 252k with an average of 62. For those who have held Windsor and maximized every last penny, it's time to offload him after making a good 172k for your side. This will help you set up your future trades if you go down to a rookie. So Windsor down will give you that extra 200k to help get another rookie up to a primo, and should have a little bit left over depending who you're getting. So really good there. Zachy Williams, 330k with an average of 66. I said last week he was a hold if he was named, and we had a few other rookie problems last week that we had to take care of. So he was a hold. Unfortunately, he did have a role change and he was stuck up forward for the whole game. So this definitely warrants a trade this week, as it seems he will be on the way down. So make sure you get rid of him. Blake Howes, 286k, average of 59, similar to Windsor. If you haven't offloaded Howes as of yet, you need to do so now. There isn't much money to be made, and he will just sit on the bench losing money. Looks like it's time to go Blake, but there was some information that came out the last couple hours that Jake Lever is out for a while. So does Howes play a bit more central? And if he does, you could probably hold him and use him as a loop. So just keep that in mind there. Darcy Jones, 182k, averaging 47. Unlucky for the helmet. He did his hammy very early on, and those who were stuck with him on field copped a juicy 8. It's been confirmed that he'll miss a minimum of 6 to 8 weeks of football. And unfortunately, at 182k, he has to go. And I would just like to touch on Darcy William and Sam Closey. A few people will look towards these two as trade out options due to their price. And in Wilson's case, his break even is mid 70s. I think they're dead rookies that we need to move on from this week. And these two have been mainstays in their respective sides. And this means you could probably hold them the extra week or two. Definitely would be keeping Wilson. He's got an average of 90 something in his last 3 games. So I'd definitely keep him. Closey's a bit up and down playing that wing role as we expect. Just to note, though, I feel as if Closey is a chance to be managed this week, but that's just due to Dimmer saying a couple of weeks ago that their rookies will be managed. But they have the bye after this week. So logic in my head says that they'll just play Closey this week. He'll have the bye off as a rest, and then he'll come back afterwards. So I think he should be good, but it is definitely an outcome that could happen. So just keep a close eye on that. But I think Wilson and Closey are both keeps if you can, just for this week or the next week. All right, let's move on to the bubble boys. So first up is Ned Moyle, 193k ruck with an average of 97 and a break even of negative 82. The big fella has played his 2 games and has showed he is very serviceable in that side and that he has the scoring potential. Unfortunately, he only gets games when Witts isn't playing, which isn't very often. And Ned will find himself in and out of the side. So unfortunately, he's not a viable option unless Witts goes down with a big injury. Next up is his teammate, Sammy Day, 153k forward with an average of 73 and a break even of negative 57. A lot of people will be tempted to jump on Day as he has chucked out 270 plus scores. But I'm not a fan of this pick at all. He's a key forward, and it seems this season he will rely on kicking goals. So he kicked, I think, 4 on the weekend, and or getting ruck time. It was his first game. I think it was 3 weeks ago. First game for the season. He what was it? He attended 25 ruck contests and he won 17 of them. And he still scored he scored 75 last week. I'm pretty sure he scored a 71 in that first game. So he scored a 71 with a lot of ruck taps. And I think he only touched the ball like 6 or 7 times. And then this week he scored a 75 with kicking 4 goals. So doesn't scream yay to me. He's got a low floor and he's got a low ceiling, so I feel there are better options definitely this week anyway. So next is Dante Vicentini, 143k ruck with an average of 84 and a break even of negative 86. So unfortunately for sweet owners, Vicentini has been playing great and keeping Sweet out of the side. As we know, Sweet got sick, so Visentini came in, played a solid game, got his second chance, and played even better last week. So how will this play out? I am unsure, and I don't think even Ken Hinkley knows. I would not be trading to Visentini though, as his job security is worrying. So the Sweet come back in. Do they play the two rucks? Then his scoring potential goes down. Um, do they go Sweet's a bit more experienced, bigger body? We bring him in, Visentini straight out. Or the third option is he plays the next 2 to 3 weeks and then Soldo's back anyway. So you might get a small jump. So yeah, it's a tough one, but unless you have a boost, maybe, but I probably wouldn't be bringing him in this week. I'm just worried about that job security. Next is Joey Richards, 123k forward with average of 83 and a break even of negative 95. I think he is the must-have rookie for this week. Has done everything right to keep his spot, and with Tom Mitchell out for another 3 weeks, and reports today that Jordan Goey is out again, Richard's job security has become even stronger, and I don't see him losing his spot anytime soon. Will be good for a quick 100 to 150k, and then we can trade him just before his buy. So jump on Joey Richards. Next up is Joel Frazier, 117k mid forward of an average of 63 and a break even of 59. Frazier has looked solid in the Doggies side, and his scoring has been pretty decent as well. Is the cheapest of the rookie options this week and has the flexibility due to that DPP. And it was definitely someone who I looked at because of that DPP, but with the news about the Collingwood injuries, I decided to go with Richards. I do worry for Frazier's job security, though, as it is Bevo, and I feel like he'll be the first one out of that side in all the plays in the defense when people come back. So it's a hard one, but I do think Joey Richards is the better option. And I know a few people out there will be looking at going early on Ethan Phillips from the Hawks at 102k as a defender after his one game, and he's at that basement price. I would wait the week as Sicily is due back. He's a test for this week, and Phillips could just be straight back out and could lose his spot in the side, or he plays, doesn't score well, and he's out the week after. So just wait on Phillips. And all other rookie options aren't viable due to their poor job security or scoring output, in my opinion. All right, we've got those two done, so we'll move towards our trade targets now. I just want to point out all top premium players that you currently don't have, they're all obviously the better options to go, but these are a few cheaper guys who I think could be great for the run home and through the buys. So first up is Luke Davies-Uniacke at 549k as a midfielder, averaging 103. He's currently in 5% of teams and has hit a little bit of form. He didn't have the greatest start to the season, but if you look at last season, he finished the year with 6 out of his last 7 games over 100, and only 2 of those games were under 120. And those were with scores of 106 and 94. So he only went under 100 once in his last 7. It is very tempting to pick him up if he can definitely replicate that, what he did last season. But the big question is, how many Roos players can we have in our side? So you look at my side, for instance, I have Harry Sheasel, Tom Powell, Zach Fisher, and I did have McKercher. So some people might have McKercher out there. Some people might have Cherry. So you're looking at 3 to 5 Roos already. Can you go one more? It's going to be tough maybe you get him after his bye, and hope that he can replicate that. So just keep an eye on LDU. If you don't have too many Roos players, I could see a reason to jump on him though. Next up is Clayton Oliver at 524k as a midfielder and an average of 93. I said it a few weeks ago that Clary could be back, and he went 124 this week and has a favourable month coming up. Obviously, he has that round 14 bye, which is for me the toughest of the buys, and I think will be for most others out there, unless you have 6 Kangaroos players. But he could have a good run of games and could be over 630k very soon. So jump on him now if that round 14 bye works out for you. Next is the Fish, Zach Fisher at 443k as a defender forward, averaging 82. 95, 150, and 116 in his last 3 games has made the Fish a genuine option once again. Taking majority of the kick-ins and seagulling off that halfback has seen him be the player that we thought he was going to be earlier in the season. Many will be worried about McKercher coming back though, which we know now is TBC, to be confirmed. But I think the main focus should be on Sheasel and what his role is. If Sheasel drops back into defense, then that's when I think we should worry about the Fish. But if Sheasel stays up the ground, I think the Fish could go 95 to 100 average easy and become a primo for our forward lines. Yes, he does have that defensive swing, but I think the value is in that forward line. So other cheaper options to include would be Luke Jackson, Tom Stewart, and Tom Green, who are all under 500k as well. That's all of the trade in targets. So I said earlier that it was going to be probably a bit quicker and a few less names, just because I'm not going to name all the obvious ones. Like you need to get your Bontempellis, your Dacosses, your Ryans, your Sarongs, your Butters, Merritts, all of those. We know that we need to have them in our sides, but those I'm just looking at the cheaper options, trying to help those who are trying to budget a little bit. So let's move straight into the captains for this week, the VCs and the Cs. So starting on the Thursday night, looking at a few vice captain options. We have the Doggies versus the Swans, and I've put Bontempelli and Heaney in the same bit here because it's a very tough matchup for both teams in regards to vice captain options. It was hard to separate anyone in this game, but if I was to choose someone from this game, it would be either of these two who have been super consistent this season. So what I mean is the Doggies midfield has been a tough matchup for other midfielders, and same with the Swans. So I wouldn't be expecting massive scores, but I think definitely scores of 120 are on the table, especially for those two. Some other options would include Adam Treloar, Tim English, Brodie Grundy, or Bailey Dale. Any of those could go could go big, but again, it's a tough matchup for both sides if we're talking Supercoach. So let's move to the Friday night. And again, vice captain options. We've got Freo versus the Pies. And the first one would be Lukey Ryan, 102, 102, and 88 in his last 3 against the Pies. The Pies are the 4th easiest team for defenders this season. So it screams vice captain to me. Pies are typically very inaccurate, so there'll be plenty of kick-ins, and they often bomb it in quick and long, so plenty of marking opportunities. So Lukey Ryan could have an absolute monster of a week, especially playing at Optus Stadium as well. Next up is Caleb Sarong, 107, 72, and 114 in his last 3. Pies tend to leak points in the midfield, and we know what Sarong can produce, as he currently has an average of 130. I think you could do a lot worse, in my opinion, this week for a vice captain. And next up is Nicky Dacos, 130 and 65 in his only 2 games against the Dockers. He's gone 100 plus in his last 7 games this season, with 4 of those over 125. So he seems to be a very consistent option, and the Dockers from time to time do league points around the ground. So Nicky Dacos could score well. The smoky pick for me would be Jordan Clark. He has had a super consistent year thus far, and I feel he's someone who could get plenty of the ball and carry and distribute out of halfback and get their attacks going. So if you're feeling risky, Jordan Clark right there. As we move to the Saturday, the vice captain and captains, we got the Kangaroos versus Port Adelaide, and Zach Butters has to be the main one here. 139, 104, and 98 in his last 3 against the Roos, who are the third easiest matchup for midfielders this year. With Wines and Rosie both potentially out, we could see Butters go absolutely massive this week. Now you'll have him, Horn Francis, and maybe a Boak or a young guy like a Jackson Mead in there. Butters could go absolutely massive, and he's someone who I'm looking at. Next, Houston. So Dan Houston and Luke Davies-Uniacke I've put in the same because both are great options this week, and they both could find plenty of the ball. The big key for Houston is his meters gained and how far he can push forward. And we know LDU, it's his contested game and his tackling that elevates his scoring. A fun fact, or a stat that I saw just before is Port have conceded the least amount of 30 plus disposal games against their opposition, with only 3 people doing it so far this season. So doesn't bode well for LDU, but he could definitely still do that. And the smoky pick is Zach Fisher. The Fish has been in great form and is hard to pass up as the smoky, as if he can get those easy kick-ins, he should easily get 120 plus, as he'll get plenty of the ball. As we move towards the Blues versus the Suns, and once again, this is a very tough matchup for both teams. I couldn't come to a definitive option, as both teams are a tough matchup, and recent history does suggest some inconsistency for the players. If you want an option in this game, your Rouse, Walshes, Millers, and Flanders would be serviceable. For the Cats and Giants, again, another tough matchup across the field for both teams. And once again, hard to find a definitive option. If you go either one of Tom Green or Tom Stewart, or even a Lockie Whitfield, I'm sure that they will score well, but will it be, well enough? Will they get that 125 plus? Who knows? As we move towards dream time at the G, the Tigers versus the Bombers, and I've put Zach Merritt and Nick Martin both in here because they're both the standouts for this game, as the Tigers lead the most points in the midfield and second most in defense this season. My pick, though, would be Merritt with 162 and 150 in his last 2 games against the Tigers, but both are great options. And the smoky pick would be Shai Bolton. Hard to pass up the other 2, but Bolton scored 139 in this game last year and could be a pod selection. As we move towards Sunday and looking at pure captain options here, you got the Hawks versus the Lions, and I think I've done this the last 3 or 4 weeks, but Josh Dunkley, Lockie Neal, and Dane Zorko, the big 3 in 2024. We've seen LeBron, Wade, and Bosch. We're now seeing Dunkley, Neal, and Zorko. All 3 have been dominating as of late and all scoring very highly. Put one of these guys as a captain and you most likely won't be disappointed. And the smoky pick for this game would be Will Day. I like Will Day as a pod pick for our sides, and I feel he could score very well in this game, but I would be leaning towards those 3 Lions, though. We move towards the D's versus the Saints, and you got Max Gawn and Rowan Marshall. You just know one, if not both of these guys, will go big. Gawn will be looking to bounce back, and the Saints rucks in Marshall and Um, Jack Hayes at times, they do leak a lot of points. For Marshall, it's a tougher matchup, but last time out, he went 149 against Maxi Gorn. Jack Steele, 140, 75, and 123 in his last three against the D's. The D's are the fifth easiest midfield to score on this season, which is very surprising. And Steele loves a tight, contested game, and this game will definitely be that. So could find plenty of tackling points. And we move to Clayton Oliver, 135, 133, and 134 in his last three against the Sainers. The ultimate consistency from Oliver. Seeing he was fully fit in those games, though, it makes a lot of sense. And he looks to be close to, and if not back to his best. So it proves a good matchup for him. So Clary could go big. Christian Petrarca and Jack Sinclair are also good options this week, in my opinion. And the smoky would be Nasiah Wanganeen Miller, who went 110 last season when he first played off the halfback. So at the end of last season, that's when he moves that halfback role and he scored really well. One of those games was against the D, so he has proved he has the potential to score. And we move towards the last game, which is the Crows versus the Eagles. And once again, Jordan Dawson and Rory Laird, both great options against the Eagles. And you know they're going to score well. It's just trying to pick the one that goes higher. I'd probably point towards Dawson, but Laird's been a bit more consistent this season. So definitely both great options. Jeremy McGovern is another one with 107 average this season, has been super consistent and has the opportunity to score well this week. As the Crows have looked a little rushed going forward this season, and he could see plenty of the ball. And my smoky picks would be Jake Waterman and Harley Reid. Both have been scoring well as of late and could do so once again against the Crows. Would be the ultimate risk, but could be very rewarding. So those are all the captain and vice captain options. A lot of tough games out there. So you're probably looking at just a handful of players realistically, but there's a few pod picks in there that you could go. So let's rank my top 5 vice captains for this week. Coming at number 5, this was the toughest one. Could have gone a Bond, could have gone a Heaney, could have gone a Butters, but I stuck with Bont here. Just off feel, but I think probably Butters is a better option if I'm thinking about it. But I'm going to stick with Bont because that's what I've put everywhere. So coming at number 4 is Caleb Sarong against the Pies. It makes a lot of sense. Lukey Ryan, again, I said he could go massive, and I feel like he is a viable VC. And Nick Dacos against that Freo midfield, we could be looking at another 130 plus here by Nick Dacos. So 3 options in the one game is pretty rare. And the number 1 vice captain option would be Zach Merritt against the Tigers. Makes a lot of sense to me. And I think he has to be a VC or C for you this week. So those are my top 5 VCs. Let's go through my top 5 captains for this week. Number 5, I've put Clary Oliver just because that consistency in recent times, and I think he could be back, so we could see a massive score this week. Jordan Dawson, number 4, playing against the Eagles. I just think he's got the highest ceiling, so you're more likely to get 160 out of him than you are Rory Laird. Number 3, Maxi Gorn. As I said, the Saints rucks do tend to leak some points, so Gorn looking to bounce back, could have a massive score here. Number 2 is Zachy Merritt. As I said, spoke to him before, could be a vice captain or a captain either way. And number 1, I've put Dane Zorko just because it's Dane Zorko and he's scoring points at what, 34, 35 years old. He's just scoring points off the halfback for fun. So I've put him there. That's it. That is the podcast done for today, tonight, whenever you listen to it. It's done. Right. So um, a lot of fun, a lot of information packed there. So if you want to go back through it, obviously you can watch on YouTube, but head over to our Facebook page because all of that will be posted on our page and on the Serious Super Coaches Facebook page as well. I post everything there as well. So if you want to go back and you don't want to listen to my voice, it will all be posted over there in the next couple days. So thank you all for watching. Don't forget you can hit us up on Twitter/X at Breakevens Pod, on Facebook, the Breakevens. It is our page. Give us a like and a follow there. Over here on YouTube, the Breakevens, and of course on Instagram, the Breakevens. So thank you all again for watching and listening. Good luck for round 11, and until next time, it's bye for now.